When my husband died, I thought the worst pain of my life had already passed. His things sat in dusty boxes in the attic, untouched for months. But one night, as rain lashed against the windows and the house creaked with loneliness, I found myself drawn to one of those boxes. Inside was his old phone. The battery was dead, but I plugged it in, almost absent-mindedly. When the screen flickered to life, my world didn't just crack. It split wide open. There were recordings, dozens of them. I pressed play, thinking maybe I'd hear my husband's voice again. Instead, what I heard was my daughter-in-law's sneer, sharp and venomous. "She's too old to fight back. One slip, one accident. No one would ask questions." My son's voice followed, calm, casual, like he was discussing what groceries to buy. "If she falls down the stairs or just disappears, we inherit everything faster. It's not like anyone's going to miss her. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video?" I froze, clutching the phone like it might burn me. Then came my daughter's whisper, quiet but steady. "We just need to make it look natural. She's frail. Nobody will doubt it." The sound of laughter filled the speaker. My children, the ones I raised, plotting my end as if I were nothing more than an obstacle on their way to a bigger house, faster cars, fatter bank accounts. My breath came in shallow gasps. I rewound, listened again, hoping I'd misheard. But no, the voices were clear. Their words stabbed me over and over. "She won't live much longer. The sooner, the better." My knees gave out and I sat on the floor, the rain outside pounding like a heartbeat. The memories of Christmas dinners, birthdays, scraped knees I once kissed better, all shattered. I remembered spoon-feeding them soup when they were sick, staying up nights sewing costumes for school plays, working double shifts so they could go to college. And this was their gratitude? To erase me like trash? The next morning I walked into the kitchen. My daughter-in-law was stirring her coffee, humming. My son sat at the table scrolling through his phone. I stared at them, my lips trembling, but I swallowed my words. If they wanted me gone so badly, I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of knowing I'd overheard their scheme. Not yet. "Sleep well, Mom?" my son asked casually without looking up. I forced a smile. "Like a baby." Inside, I was shaking. Every clink of a cup, every shared glance between them felt like a knife at my back. I began to notice the small things I had overlooked before. The way my daughter-in-law always suggested I walk alone to the store after dark. The way my son left the basement door ajar as if inviting me to tumble down the steps. But now I was awake, and I was listening. That night, I lay in bed with my husband's old phone clutched to my chest. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound I'd ever known. Yet, beneath the sorrow, something else stirred. A dark resolve, steady and cold. They thought I was frail. They thought I was blind. But they didn't know who they were dealing with. Because I wasn't planning to die. I was planning to watch them beg. For the next week, I lived like a ghost in my own house, careful not to let them sense my awareness. I cooked breakfast. I washed dishes. I answered when spoken to, nodding at their cruel little remarks as though nothing had changed. But at night, behind the locked door of my room, I listened to those recordings again and again, each word etching itself deeper into my bones until it became fuel. They wanted me gone? Then I'd let them walk straight into a trap they couldn't crawl out of. It started with small things. I took careful note of their patterns. When my daughter-in-law left for her yoga classes, when my son liked to drink himself half asleep in the recliner, when the house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I opened a notebook, one my husband had once used for grocery lists, and filled it with observations. Times, dates, words. My proof. But revenge couldn't just be proof. Proof would only punish them through the law, and that would be too clean, too merciful. I wanted them to taste what they'd served me. Fear, uncertainty, the sense that the floor could fall out from under them at any second. I wanted them to feel their own shadows closing in. One night, my daughter called. I had her voice on recording too, whispering that I wouldn't live much longer. When she arrived for dinner that weekend, I sat at the table, my hands folded neatly in my lap, the phone hidden in my apron pocket. I asked about her new promotion. She smiled, smug, confident, until I leaned forward and said softly, "Funny how ambition makes people whisper dangerous things at midnight." Her smile faltered. "What do you mean?" I tilted my head and gave her the same sweet smile I'd used when she was 5 years old and lied about breaking a vase. "Oh, nothing. Just an observation." I watched her squirm. She left early that night, feigning a headache, and I knew she'd go running to her brother. Perfect. The seed of fear was planted. The next step came at Sunday dinner. I cooked their favorites, set the table as always. When we all sat down, I let them chatter about their plans, their vacations, their meaningless gossip. Then I placed my husband's old phone on the table, screen up. The screen was cracked, faintly glowing. "Funny thing," I said, my voice calm. "Old phones can hold a lot more than you think." My daughter-in-law's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My son glanced at the phone, then at me. "What are you talking about?" he asked, his tone sharp, defensive. "Oh, nothing," I said again, sliding the phone closer to me. "Just recordings. Little moments captured forever. You'd be surprised what I've heard." The silence that followed was thick, electric. My son's hand twitched as if he wanted to grab the phone, but I covered it with mine. I looked at each of them one by one, until they looked away. They didn't dare press further, not knowing exactly what I knew. That night, I didn't lock my door. I wanted them to try something, but instead of plotting in hushed voices, the house was unusually still, too still. Fear had begun to shift the balance of power, and I savored it. Days passed. I let tension build like a storm cloud. When my daughter-in-law offered to drive me to the pharmacy, I smiled and said, "No, thank you. I know how dangerous the roads can be." When my son left the basement door open again, I made sure to slam it shut loud enough for him to hear. Every little reminder chipped away at their control. The final crack came during another late-night conversation I overheard from the hallway. My daughter-in-law's voice was tight, panicked. "She knows something. I swear she does." My son growled back, "Then we need to find out how much." I didn't sleep that night. I wrote a letter in my husband's notebook, one they wouldn't find until I wanted them to. It detailed every recording, every date, every whispered plan. I sealed it in an envelope and slid it into the hollow panel behind the fireplace. My insurance. The next morning, I greeted them with a smile. "We should have a family dinner again," I said cheerfully. "Invite everyone. It's been too long." They looked at me strangely, but agreed. They thought they were going to corner me. They had no idea I was about to drag them into a stage I had already set, where every move they made would be turned against them. Because I wasn't the fragile woman they thought I was. I was their reckoning, and the real show was only about to begin. The night of the family dinner arrived, and I could almost taste the tension before anyone walked through the door. I had spent the entire day preparing, not just food, but the stage. I cooked their favorites again, the same dishes they had once mocked me for being too old to get right anymore. I laid the table with my best china, polished until it gleamed, and at the head of the table I set a chair for myself, the spot they'd often tried to deny me. When the clock struck 6, my daughter was the first to arrive. She stepped inside, lips painted too red, eyes darting around like she was expecting to find me trembling in a corner. Instead, I stood tall, apron tied neatly, greeting her as though nothing had ever passed between us. "You look thin," I said sweetly. "Is the guilt eating you?" She froze, her smile cracking. She muttered something about traffic and walked past me, but I saw her hand trembling as she set down her purse. Good. Next came my son and his wife, arm in arm, their laughter too forced, too high-pitched. They thought they had control, until they saw the phone sitting in the middle of the table again. This time, it wasn't just the cracked phone. Beside it lay 3 small USB drives, each labeled with neat black ink. Voice 1, Voice 2, Voice 3. "Are those?" My daughter-in-law started, her voice tight. "Oh yes," I interrupted, smiling. "Copies. You didn't think I'd keep just one, did you?" The room shifted then. No one touched their drinks. No one lifted a fork. My son cleared his throat and tried to sound casual. "Mom, what is this game? You're scaring everyone." "Game?" I repeated softly, leaning forward. No, no. Games are what you played when you whispered in dark corners about how much easier life would be without me. When you planned how to make me disappear. When you laughed about my age like it was an expiration date. I let the silence hang, then added, "This isn't a game. This is your reflection." I pressed play. The room filled with their own voices, the crackle of my husband's old phone catching every syllable. My daughter-in-law's voice rang out. "She's useless. She doesn't even deserve the bed she sleeps in." My son's voice followed, low and cruel. "We just need to make sure she doesn't get in the way. Once she's gone, everything falls to us." Their faces drained of color. My daughter's hands shook so badly her wine glass clattered against the table. And I sat calmly, spooning mashed potatoes onto my plate like it was just another Sunday meal. "You see," I continued, my tone soft but cutting, "you wanted me gone so badly, but you forgot one thing. Ghosts don't disappear quietly. They linger, they haunt, and they choose when to show their face." My son stood abruptly, slamming his hand on the table. "You think anyone's going to believe you? You're old, you're bitter. We can say you made it up, edited it." I let out a laugh then, a sound so sharp it made even me shiver. "Oh, darling," I said, "do you think these copies aren't already somewhere safe? Do you think the neighbors, the church ladies, your boss, haven't heard a sample by now? I told you, I planned better than you ever could." And then came the final act. I rose from my seat, walked to the fireplace, and pulled out the envelope from its hiding place. I laid it on the table. "This," I said, "is everything. Dates, times, conversations, and every person I've trusted now knows where to find it if anything happens to me." The three of them looked trapped, like animals in a cage. My daughter-in-law's lip quivered, my son's fists clenched, my daughter's face crumpled in panic. But I wasn't finished. I leaned forward, my eyes hard. "You called me baggage, you called me useless, you thought you could erase me. But now you'll live every day wondering if the knock on the door is the police, if the phone call is your downfall, if the neighbor looking at you knows everything. You won't sleep, you won't rest, you won't laugh freely again, because I don't need to ruin you in one night." I tapped the phone with my finger. "I've already planted the poison, and it will eat you alive." For the first time in years, silence was mine. They didn't insult me, they didn't laugh. They didn't mock. They just sat there, pale and shaking, forks untouched, hearts pounding against the weight of their own betrayal. I gathered my plate, stood, and walked away from the table, leaving them in the wreckage of their own voices. For once, they were the ones suffocating in fear, and I was free. Because revenge didn't come in a fiery outburst, or a courtroom battle, or a single dramatic scene. It came in the slow, creeping knowledge that their darkest words were no longer hidden, and that I, the woman they wanted erased, now controlled every breath they took. And as I closed my bedroom door that night, I smiled, knowing that they would never again feel safe in their own skin. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.